You have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. Used to talk and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. Used to talk and now you see, you have reached your destiny, woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees. Good day and welcome everybody. I'm Donna Jones Simmons, co-author, co-founder, and architect of 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women Project. Today's conversation is about ageism and technology. Is technology too much and too tough for us who just want us to live a simple life? You have mastered a technology today and then it changes. How do you keep up? It can't be that difficult, for my 18-month grandson already knows how to manipulate my smartphone just like a pro. Here to moderate this fascinating discussion and gain some helpful insights and tips is Jennifer Singh. Jennifer Singh is a 2016 honoree and a retired higher educational professional. She has embraced the benefits of technology, but finds the language i.e., abbreviations, of text baffling, and uses social media sparingly. She's not yet subscribed to TikTok and tweeted. Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you, Donna. This should be a very interesting and exciting afternoon. I think among my demographic in particular, I'm a baby boomer, that the refrain of technology is too tough is very, very popular. I think during the pandemic, when we were all in lockdown, we became adept at Zoom calls and banking online and online shopping, but technology still befuddles us. So now I'd like to introduce our two panelists, two Roses, who will share some ideas on how to overcome hesitancy and embrace technology at our own comfort levels. First, I'd like to introduce Rose Nixon, who will tell us something about herself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Fireside Chat. I am Rose Nixon, also known as the Declutter Coach. I am the founder of Really Organized Now, which is a professional organizing solutions company. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, coaching active women on the values of adopting a clutterless, organized lifestyle. I'm also the co-founder and founding host of Moms Embracing Tech, producing weekly live online interviews highlighting the journeys of midlife women and moms worldwide. My entry point into technology is through social media, where I aim to encourage midlife women to embrace their technology, embrace themselves, and embrace their life's journey. During the pandemic, that message was furthered as our dependence on technology became more urgent, relevant, and necessary. I realized that more women were struggling and challenged by the advent of showing up online for themselves and for their businesses. Moms Embracing Tech became a safe and supportive place where women of all walks of life, from Toronto and as far as Italy and Spain, could connect with other women to start using their voice to share their expertise and tell their first person stories. I am a mom and is an active volunteer and mentor who encourages everyone to be confident in showing up as themselves and sharing their skills and knowledge.
Thank you, Rose. And now we will introduce Roseanne Bailey, who will tell us something about herself.
Hello all, good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to be able to join this amazing conversation. So my name is Roseanne Bailey. I am a graduate of York University. I've earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts, a Bachelor of Education, and a Master's of Fine Arts. I would consider myself a filmmaker, an artist, but also a knowledge creator. I do work around community engagement, anti-Black racism facilitation, community health, education, as well as taking a look at the link between systemic racism, youth gang culture, urban education, social determinants of health, and using arts-based intervention. And some of those are more digitally savvy to be able to do that. I'm pretty much focused on culture relevant and responsive health education, as well looking at how technology can be utilized with that. Because I work with youth, I do a lot more work around social media, but also being able to look at providing content that is accessible for a younger generation. I have about 20 years frontline work with health promotion and experience working within the City of Toronto, the community crisis response, and currently I am working with the Toronto Police Service doing their race-based data, which is a little bit more technologically advanced in terms of looking at how race impacts the work that we're doing. So my focus today would be a little bit about how obviously with COVID and with the shift of everything that Rose had mentioned, that online, what are the things that we could actually utilize to be able to get everybody a little bit more comfortable with digital formats, digital worlds, and also what are some of the barriers and how it could be used, particularly within health, but also what are the things that you might be able to do within your own communities to be able to help support your families, but also make yourself more comfortable. Looking forward to a very invigorating conversation. And yeah, that would be all about me. Thank you.
Well, we certainly have a breadth of experience and expertise to be found within these two panelists. So let's kick off the first question. And I'll start with you, Rose Nixon. Because of your work with Moms Embracing Technology, what are some of the mindsets that the older adults have in terms of embracing technology?
Yes, so at my age, technology is too tough. I think that's a great title because it's a moniker that I think a lot of us use. It's a dialogue that a lot of us are having with ourselves and at large. And the dialogue often is more internal and can be highly critical and extremely negative. But it doesn't have to be. And so I do believe that a slight mindset shift is often what is needed. I do believe that you are never too old and that it's never too late to learn and empower yourself. And in the case of technology, more so. So there are generally 6 areas of technology: electrical, communication, energy, mechanical, medical, transportation, all of those things. And we all know the different aspects in which we utilize technology. But technology has become inescapable. And yes, it can be tough. And one of the main reasons technology is tough is because of that same thing, our mindset. Our mindset, whether it's technology or any aspect of our life, it's where everything starts. It's what will determine whether or not we move forward, go forward, whether we, embrace certain things into our lives. What is the lens that we're looking through when we're navigating technology? If you're already loaded with a lot of negative point of views, it's going to be tough. If you are approaching technology with preconceived ideas, it is also going to be tough. And if you have a mindset that is resistant to change, it's going to be tough. So let's look at some of the mind blocks, some of the dialogue that we tend to have, like, I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, this makes me feel stupid, I'm too slow, I'm not technically inclined, I've never done this before, it's too late to start now. This is a young person's thing. I like things the way it used to be. It takes too much time. And by the time I learn this, something new is going to come along. I can't keep up. Why bother? I really don't use it anyway. These are some of the things that are working against us on a daily basis, especially as we are, like myself, in midlife or beyond. And it seems like the older we get, the more resistance we are to certain changes or adopting to certain technologies. These are mind blocks that are very negative, hypercritical, and limiting. So how do we unblock and shift our mindset? For one thing, we can just simply replace the negative thought, which is obvious to most of us when we hear it, but it's not something that we often tap into or recognize at the time. So simply, flipping the statement and just making it a more positive statement, changing the dialogue that you have with yourself. Realize that your negative talk about embracing technology often stretches far beyond into other aspects of your life. So sometimes it might require us doing a little bit more of a deep dive into, where is that coming from? Why is that here? Why is it existing for me right now? For most of us, we've been in the marketplace and in the work sector for decades. We've used computers, we use it for work, we use it in many different capacities, but then when we are outside of that environment and something new is put towards us, we tend to be resistant against it. But if we're in the workplace and your boss says, this is the new thing that we're using now, you get quick to it. And you're like, okay, well, what do I, and then you grumble under your breath about how you hate this, and I can't believe this, and I don't want to do this, and what do they think they're doing here? And it's like this mind game that we're playing with ourselves. And that is some of that dialogue that we need to just squash, or really get it to really be on a lower volume. It's something that holds us back. Maybe not trying, but maybe writing things down. We all know that writing things down can be very powerful. When we see it in black and white, we see it in hard copy, and we see the words not speaking back to us in a volume that we can hear, but speaking back to us in a way that we can digest it. We see it for what it is. So sometimes you got to take the chatter out of your head. And again, a lot of people are resistant to doing a lot of the inner, deeper work, asking themselves some of the crucial questions as to why they're reacting the way they're reacting to certain things that come into their life. So it really is, it's a hard place to be. And that's why sometimes people just simply brush it off, leave it alone. And it's like, okay, I don't want to deal with this because I don't want to deal with me. So that's a part of the resistance. So maybe asking yourself the tougher questions. What am I losing by engaging in this negative dialogue?
Okay.
Maybe you can say, what are the benefits? What are some of the benefits that I would gain if I was adopting more positive thought and dialogue, right? Go ahead.
Let me ask Roseanne to jump in here.
Yeah.
When we think of barriers in sort of engagement with technology, we think of the older person.
Mhm.
Roseanne, you work a lot with youth. Do you find any of that sort of evident?
I think youth are extremely adaptable. I think it's easy for them. And I think here's a way that we talk about intergenerational and multi-generational ways of connecting. And I think, Rose, you mentioned the fact that, some people are frightened, but I think here's an opportunity to get your younger generation to teach you and to be able to be open to actually understanding that. So some of the stats are 2021, around 32% of all Canadians from the age of 15 to about 69 are actually working from home. And so compared to like 2016, that was only 4%. And so you have everything else, as you mentioned, Rose, that is working around you that's changing, and you'll grumble like how many people were doing these Zoom meetings prior to the pandemic that happened. And so now that it's here, it's a matter of kind of figuring out, how do I do that? So when we talk about social isolation, right, we start taking a look at your church. Sometimes you can do your grocery shopping. Sometimes it's now learning. You can now vote. You can have birthday parties. We've been celebrating 50ths and milestones through Zoom parties and all of these other stuff. And so in order for you to be able to break down some of those social isolations and not being with yourself, and there's so much more that you can expand based on your family members, but also being able to connect cross-culturally and even just geographically. So I remember like all of my nephews and my nieces are in the States. And so it's easier for us to chat via Instagram, or to be able to kind of use other mediums. And at first I was just like, just call me. And some of the times it's just like, it's not that easy. So what I'd have to do is then just adapt to whatever that they've done. I found that I've actually started to embrace more like audiobooks, like what are the learning and digital formats that I can say. And even just things like, I would say the University of YouTube's. right? So if I don't know something, I'll go to YouTube and try and find it. And then I will even go through some of the learnings through that. But there's so many things that are digitally available at the public libraries will give you access to learning courses like lynda.com. Or you can then say, okay, well, if I wanted to exercise or if I wanted to do stuff, there's so many things that are there, and it makes it so much easier for you to be able to interact, and not just the social isolation, but even to mentally as well as physically be able to participate.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, I think, into my next question. Let's talk about some of the benefits or opportunities that technology will provide. I mean, there's so many apps out there to make our lives easier. I, for one, I drive a lot, but occasionally, especially going downtown now, I've begun using public transportation. So I use the TTC or the Go Trip Planner, which is amazing because it tells me how long it takes to get from point A to point B. So if I'm going to park and drive, or drive and park, then I know how much time to plan. So there's so many apps, I think, available now to help you that you don't realize it is technology you're embracing. One such app is I have my Green Peak parking on my phone. So I don't have to pay with my credit card all the time or find cash. I mean, so those are things that help our lives become better or more efficient. So I'm throwing this out to you, both of
I
you.
mean, there's definitely, the phrase is, there's an app for that. There's nothing that you can think currently that there isn't truly an app for. And if there isn't one, there's one probably in development right now as we're speaking. So to Rose Ann's point, it's constantly changing, and we're constantly adapting. And the thing is that technology, to Jennifer's point, sometimes we don't even recognize that we're using technology, and we do take it for granted that the technology is there. When Rogers unfortunately had the blackout a few months back, people were like, what? Like, we did not know what to do. For the people who were on the Rogers user platform, they did not know what to do. And businesses were impacted greatly by this small span, what we considered a long span, but really ideally it was a short span of time that we were blacked out. But we've become so accustomed to having it there readily available to us as if a breath is within us, we don't think twice about it. So, it is integral to everything we do. Every single thing we do. It helps us live healthier lives. It helps us, if you're somebody who accessibility is an issue. Technology is key. Like, it is allowing you to live more independently. It is allowing you to stay within community. It is allowing you to stay connected. Like we look at, let's say, WhatsApp. A lot of us are from the Caribbean. We used to think back in the day of what our bills would look like for long distance charges, calling our friends and family abroad. And now you can get on WhatsApp and sit on a phone call with somebody for 2 hours and you never see a charge, right? So it's mind-boggling where we've come from, where we're going, and how the impact that it has on our lives. And so now that we've grown so accustomed, it's like another arm on our body. So we actually cannot do without it. We've now built a system and a world in which we cannot do about it. So to resist it is to resisting yourself, as far as I'm concerned. Like, we cannot keep resisting it. You have to reframe it, how you adopt yourself towards it, but you cannot resist it. It's defeating. It's pointless, really. It helps us detect what's it called, like manage and detect diseases. It ensures us, for example, when the pandemic happened, So many people were not online. So many people did not have a real presence online, right? Yet our banks, CRA, all of these agencies are all online. And when the pandemic happened, in order for you to maximize or get access to benefits so you could pay your rent, you had to be online. That was like crucial to whether or not people were going to eat, sleep, or be housed.
Yeah.
Right? Like for almost 2 years, 2.5 years. That's the impact that we need to look at. Those are the positive things that we need to draw out when we're thinking negative things about, I don't wanna. No, everything is not for everyone. So of course, there are 1,000,001 apps. You don't need 1,000,001 apps in your daily life, but maybe you need a good handful. Like Jennifer pointed some that were integral to how she travels throughout the day, how she gets from point A to point B, right? So you get to determine what technologies you get to bring into your life and for what reasons. You know your lifestyle, you know your needs, you know, or you're anticipating your needs, right? So you use the technology that works for you, that helps you enhance your ability to move through life or live the lifestyle that you choose, right? So I just think, yes, there's the dark side of everything. There's the dark side to technology. There's the greed, there's the corruption, there's the manipulation, there's the dark web, there's so many things. But if we have to stop and ingest that all day, yes, we're never going to do anything. We're never going to embrace it. But when you look at all of the positive things, like us having this fireside chat today is a positive thing. It's only being able to do it through a technology like Zoom that allows us to have hundreds of people join from anywhere they are in life, anywhere they are in the world. Like, it's mind-boggling how exciting it can be, how invigorating it can be, and how special it can be, because you and I can get to connect in a way that maybe we wouldn't ordinarily do that. Maybe you live in Oakville, maybe you live in the US, but you and I can have like a hearty conversation, still see each other, hear each other, and in a sense, feel each other. And it's an empowering and invigorating and fulfilling feeling.
Yeah. Now I want to jump in here. Roseanne, you talked about the younger folk being early adopters. So here is an opportunity for the young to now teach the older generation. Here's an opportunity for families to actually become closer when an older person can reach out to a child or a grandchild to say, please help me. And that could form such a bond. You know, every week you go over to grandma's to teach her how to do certain things.
Yeah.
But getting back to the older person, Roseanne, could you talk about how technology will help with memory loss and aging?
So I think this is a great segue, because I know, Rose, you talked about, being frightened of what technology is, and what it's become. I think for some people, it's not so easy just to jump in. And I'm thinking about specifically, there's lots of research that's actually taken a look at dementia. And one of the reasons why it's doing that is taking a look at how to slow the progress, or to try and figure out how to connect. I'm sure we're all, like myself, are dealing with aging parents, and my mother specifically is early onset of dementia. And so one of the things, and as a photographer, I'm always looking for ways to be able to capture moments, and even capturing my grandmother and having photographs, or my grandfather, or being able to put things together. And so it's taking things that we've taken on our cell phones and actually printing things out, creating like a physical tactile photo album to be able to give to them and put names underneath them. And they found that the research has shown that the tactileness of them being able to flip through the pages, being able to read and do that, helps actually slow the process of memory loss. And I think those are the things that, it's working both ways with technology, and also the younger people or us as caregivers are creating to be able to help support the seniors that, or our parents or our loved ones that might be losing memory. And so what does that memory look like? And what does that, what was that process that we can actually engage? There are so many other ways that, you know, if you're not there yet, don't feel overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming to say, oh my God, you know, I'm not there. But there's things like learnforlife.ca, which is Toronto District School Board. They have all these different courses that you can take on, you know, either scrapbooking, they have things included, your Excel and your Microsoft Words, and even how to use the internet, all of these different things that are available out there. And so I think it's a matter of just kind of providing resources for individuals to be able to kind of say, hey, what are the ways that we could actually help this? And I think health and science is actually doing part of that, where they're doing research and looking at how to use technology to enhance. So one of the other projects that I'm working on with the University of Toronto with Dr. Lance McGrady is we're working with youth and coming out of the child welfare system. And instead of having an interview with the individuals, we're actually asking them to take photographs. And the photographs then tell stories that we interview them based on what the photographs look like. And those are the content that we're doing. And so it's now utilizing this technology for documentation, but also articulation. So for some people may not necessarily be able to say, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what it is, but this picture represents that, and being able to have those conversations. So I find a lot of research are now changing and actually utilizing and embracing technology in addition to older adults. And I think particularly between our Black families, how important that legacy, and even just the fact that you might be creating this photo album that is multisensory, and it actually now is triggering emotions and joy for individuals, what it's doing to yourself as well. So in addition to the adults or whoever you're making it for, think about what it means for you, or now the legacy of having those documentations and archiving your family's history. That, you know, your cell phone gets lost, or, you know, your computer dies, and you lose those memories because you didn't save it or you didn't print it somewhere else. And we have technology that's moving so quickly. At one time was floppy disks, then it was like so many, like a USB. Right now they have like SD cards that you can't even plug in anywhere. The CD-ROMs, no computers have CD-ROMs anymore. So technology is moving so quickly, as you mentioned. And then how do we actually still preserve our way to be able to transfer that from generation to generation? And how does that generation can help us with that process? And so I think that's the important part, right?
Oh my gosh, what you're describing, Roseanne, it sounds beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I would love to find out more.
And everybody can do it. Like, you don't even need to go to the research. You can actually start printing photo albums and putting those things down and put names down, because you're going to go, oh, who was that again?
Yeah.
Because you don't remember. And then the documentation, and I find photography for me is that if you don't have a photograph of somebody, you don't almost have a documentation of their existence.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so important for you to be able to document your history and the individuals in your family and their existence. Because, you know, one of the other research I was doing was looking at Black individuals in the shelter system. And we found so many older seniors in the shelter system that have lost everything. They were just able to bring with them whatever they brought. And from there, whatever memories they had was, whether it was in their cell phone or whatever. But some people don't, the value of that photo album or that documentation of their family sometimes is lost. And sometimes as people age, they're lost. And so how do you make sure those connections, how do you make sure that, you know, Uncle this, who might not be, you didn't check on him in this and you didn't know where he was. And so cell phones are great, but then actually physically, and I would hate to say that, you know, this technological age that we don't check in on people, even though we see them on Zoom. Like, go in, see those individuals and make those connections, right?
Touch them.
Yeah.
One of the things that
Yeah.
as you were speaking, Roseanne, one of the things that came to me was that when we're dealing with people even older than we are, or at different stages of abilities, I think we have to slow down and find maybe that one or two bits of technology that they can be comfortable with and really feel good about, so that they are also a part of the technological age. So we're not rushing them along to learn everything, but we teach them one or two things where they are comfortable with, whether it's texting or whatever, so that they can communicate with others, or they can be helpful to themselves. Now, I saw one person on the chat mention that men don't seem to adapt readily to technology, but there's so many apps out there that maybe they can be introduced to, something that will spark an interest, that will help them. Any thoughts?
I think it's a matter of, as I said, reaching out to people. So sometimes they might not adapt, but being able to be with them and actually say, okay, Pops, this is how it's going to work, or this. And it doesn't even have to be your relative, because I know you know other uncles or brothers and stuff that you haven't spoken to in a really long time. And to even just kind of physically check in, see where they're at and say, come, let me show you what you can use on your phone, even the WhatsApp, or even including people in those WhatsApp, those family WhatsApp group. So, and you're sharing photographs of being able to say, oh, this is what I did. Here's the graduation for junior. All of these things is how can you keep them involved or intertwined with that?
And I think that's part of kind of highlighting for them what the benefits are to them.
Right.
So, for example, if it's a matter of staying in contact with like their grandchildren, you know, and they know that the kids are online, they're not seeing them all the time. Well, you know what, Grandpa, like this is a way for you to stay in contact with them and have personal dialogue with them on a readily available app, you know. And so I think it forges a new relationship and a new dialogue that maybe that older adult wasn't anticipating that they would have. I mean, we saw what happened with TikTok during the pandemic, and that cross-generational gap closing, because you had grandparents dancing with their teenage grandkids, or parents who typically are not communicating with their everyday teenager. All of a sudden, they had something that they could connect on. And they were having wild energy about it, and they formed a new dynamic and a new shift in, maybe they were seeing now their parents as like people, or, you know, you're starting to see like, oh, so this is the world my child lives in, and these are some of the things that they're dealing with. And I think it just helps to open up that kind of dialogue, which is very much needed in a lot of our interpersonal relationships, right? So technology can do that. It can bridge that gap.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about is even playing games. Older person may want to play checkers or chess or something, and they can play with their son, daughter, grandchild, great grand. And that way it helps them. Or even if they just did maybe Sudoku or whatever, they crossword, using technology. So they also can do it tactilely using print, but also introducing it to them using the technology digitally, so they become a bit more comfortable with it.
And so just as, sorry to cut you off, it exercises their brain. So the fact that they're doing these word searches, they're doing these puzzles, for some people it may seem like, oh, you're spending hours on that thing, but it's actually building the memory, it's building games, it's actually training the brain, so that you're actually using parts of your brains that you haven't used for a long time, and it actually helps with your memory function as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big thing. And I think going back earlier to what Roseanne was talking about in terms of as parents are aging and now you're living in multi-generational homes or environments, you know, the investment really is on the older adult sometimes to make the investment in the technology, because they're generally going to be or already are the caretakers for these aging adults. So like you're talking about people that are maybe in their 80s and beyond, who cannot really go full in on embracing that technology. So it is up to us to invest in it, because in the long run, we're going to need it. And it's going to become essential in many regards to make sure that we're up on what's current and what's available, so that your parent or your family member, your loved one, is getting the best care possible, right? And it's becoming increasing that healthcare is going to be more and more digitized. We've been trying in different ways in the last few decades trying to get that together here in Canada, but it will become essential, and it will become more readily available to everyone.
Mhm.
You know,
I think one of the basic functions, banking and paying your bills. I don't like going into the bank, so I welcomed when we can do banking online. And it's sort of sitting with an older person to help them to move their money around. How do you pay a bill? And I think to not have everything automatically deducted. I had a problem with Rogers, and says, okay, we can solve that problem. Let me take it out. Let's do automatic withdrawal. I said, no, I don't want you touching my money. I will pay you, but you solve this problem. So it's also helping the older person to become comfortable with a cashless world too, because now you have to pay for everything using your credit card, your debit card, and how do you balance that with what's in your bank book?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important things.
And I think it's a great way also to be able to check, because my mom, you know, her little credit card with very little amount on it, right? But there were some charges that came up, and when the bank flagged it for her, she's like, that wasn't me. And being able to have communication and being able to bridge the information that you're getting from your credit card, obvious, to the bank, to even say, even if she couldn't call, even if she couldn't log on, she was able to call somebody and say, okay, I didn't make that purchase, can you take that off? But it was that technology of being able to kind of use them both in a way that she was comfortable, and being able to help advocate for that. And I think some of those financial literacy and those parts around protection, and also I think identity theft especially,
that's big.
are huge for ourselves, but even for our aging parents who, you know, they have their small pension coming in and they're just trying to survive on the pension. For example, like my mom will go, you know, to Jamaica for X amount of months, and her thing is like, okay, how do I make sure this is paid? How do I make sure that is paid, and stuff like that, and helping her to be able to navigate that on her own, to be able to say, okay, you know, this is your account, make sure you can call or you can log on because you have Wi-Fi, and being able to help there.
And isn't that the beauty, that she could be in Jamaica and still check her bank account in Canada? Like, you know, or to get those notifications. And now, like, a lot of the banks are integrating this whole thing where it sends you a notification, whether to your email or on your phone, to let you know if you're gone below a certain threshold in your bank account. So that's like a big thing. It seems like a simple thing, a little thing, but it lets you know, okay, you know what, like, you're below $1,000 or you're below $100, whatever the case may be. So you could be wherever and you're like, well, I don't know of anything else coming out of my account. There's a flag that you can at least follow up on. And, you know, so like there's so many interesting, like, valuable things that takes place in our everyday life, that technology has become just indispensable. Like,
I think somebody had asked about cybersecurity.
Cyberbullying, yeah.
just in terms of cybersecurity portion of it, in terms of that, some of those things is really going into your bank and having conversations with what is available. And, you know, Rose, you talked about the withdrawal level, and then every time something comes out, it goes to either to a text message or a cell phone or an email address. I think that's useful for me as well, because I'm able to say, oh, okay, I have to either transfer some money over to one side, just so that it doesn't put me financially in a situation. Or then the other part is that, okay, well, I didn't make any purchase coming out, and being able to flag that, and the relationship that you have with your bank. Sometimes I'll reference my mom. Sometimes the relationship she has with the bank is going into the bank, them knowing that, and then flagging it to her and say, you know, Miss So-and-so, that we realize that this has happened, and this doesn't seem like it's not within your pattern of stuff. And being able to help support that way. But I think it's a combination of the digital stuff, but then for older people who might not be comfortable quite yet, it's being able to have those relationships within the institution that you can say, okay, can you help me out here? This is what my pension is. Here's what it is. Here's all the things that I have, and being able to have those communications, right?
And I think that's highlighting just the case of having sort of this happy balance between the two worlds, because it's necessary. You don't have to go all in if you're not comfortable or you're skeptical or whatever. But for the things that you are willing to go all in on, then do it and relax a little bit. You know, take a little load off of your worries and anxiety about being online, because like I said, not everything's for everyone. But just using the banking thing, there are things that, you know, will definitely ease your mind in knowing that you have it in place. So it's not about just jumping in with everything.
On the case somebody's asked about cybersecurity, I think it's also important that each of us have someone who is very familiar with computers to avoid getting scammed. So if you, and I mean, I consider myself fairly intelligent, but I was scammed because the call was so, they knew exactly what buttons to push. It had to do with taking control of my computer because there was some virus or something like that. Yeah. And then once you give over control, you lose a lot. Mm-hmm. And although there was a voice telling me, why are you doing this? The argument on the other side was so compelling that I did it. And the minute I did it, I thought, you're a dummy, which was true. And so there are times when you have to stop and say, okay, no, I'm not going to do this. Let me talk to my son or whomever, a trusted person who can say to me whether this is something that I should be doing.
I think as a rule, people really need to understand that for the most part, most organizations and most agencies that you deal with for the key things in your life, they don't call you, period. They do not call people. They do not call you at large for anything. They will probably send you something documented in your mail. If they have your email and they had acquired it at the time that you signed up for it, then you know, okay, I can check, I can almost double check that, because you can even call the agency and say, did you send out a series of mail to consumers or whatever, and did you send it out on this date? So you can, before clicking anything within the email, call the agency that you do know of, right? From a number that was not in the SMS that you got or anything like that. Like, you have to be so careful. And we have all these bots that are calling, and do not click, do not answer. For myself, I run a small business. Anytime somebody gives me a referral to someone, I say, can you also give me their phone number now so I can put it in my contact list, attach the information that I want with that contact within the contact list. So when they call me, then I know that that person is calling me, because out of that, I do not answer any number anymore. because a lot of these scammers are using 416, 647, all of the common looking phone numbers that you might think, oh, maybe it's somebody I haven't talked to in a while. Maybe, well, my uncle had told me that so-and-so was going to call. Maybe it's them. Well, you don't question it. Avoid doing that altogether by ensuring that you have within your contact list people that you know.
Yeah.
If it's not somebody that you know, do not answer that call. Let it go to voicemail. Then you can listen to the voicemail and determine, is that something that I need to return? But do not click on anything within that messaging.
And it's so important to verify that this is
big.
That is legitimate.
Yeah.
Because what I get stuff from a Rogers looking.
Oh, they're good now. They look identical.
And it's not Rogers.
Yeah.
But this company insists on having the logo and stuff, and I just send it to the fraud department all the time, and they keep saying, "Don't open it." You know.
And
So
I don't know, for a lot of people, that if you do shop online, the minute you shop online and purchase something online, know that you will see in your spam box emails coming from that same person, that same organization or business that you just purchased something from. You will see it mimicked in your spam box. So when you see something saying you have coupons, you've got 10%, you've got whatever, when you click on the email, there's a little arrow on your, I think just under like the subject line or something. If you click on it, you will be able to widen out the full extent of the actual email address that is sending to you. And very often you'll see Sam, blah, 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 with a bunch of numbers or something really odd. So then you know it's not legit.
Yeah.
And if you never bought from these people, do not click on it. Do not click on these things that come through your email.
So I think we're going into a topic that's going to be a separate fireside chat, but it is important because we're dealing with technology being too tough for older people. And this is one of the barriers, I think, to embracing technology because of all of the downsides or downfalls out there.
That's the dark side that we don't like.
Yeah. So just to sort of veer to the left a bit, many people are looking at work-life balance and opting out of corporate life and wanting to start their own businesses after age 50. How can technology help us?
Ooh, technology can help us in so many ways. Again, when you look at like apps, let's say LinkedIn is the most commonly used, commonly known. I just attended online the Be Future summit, tech summit. And that was part of their discussion on one of the panels, was just that whole thing. But they were talking a little bit more from like the younger demographic. But either way, LinkedIn, as an example, is still one of those essential ways of making workplace communication happen and connection happen, because you can see the person and you can see who they're linked to that maybe is linked to you, or you can see like a history. You can see, all of the people that are within, like people that you actually know who may also know that person. So you can get referrals. Like there's a lot of that going on in terms of the LinkedIn. If you don't already have an account, you should set one up. A lot of people set one up and they never use it. Again, it's that kind of resistance thing. Well, I don't, the little chatter that goes on in your head. Social media is a great way. Different apps, Facebook, the big five, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What's the other one? I said LinkedIn. Those are ways for you to, again, go privately into messaging that particular person and say, you know, hi, introduce yourself a little, maybe give your little 30-second pitch, maybe do, you know, all of those type of things, but where you can still have, even though you're not meeting them in person, you can still have that more intimate, personalized dialogue with the person. So don't shy away from it. There are people who have gotten contracts, jobs, celebrity, whatever the case may be, like they've become rich and famous because they so-called slid into the DMs, right? Like they come into the direct messages of the people that they want. It can be very strategic, because if I know Jennifer and I know Jennifer has a certain position and it's within an organization that I want to work at, and maybe my mom knows Jennifer, I can simply send Jennifer a note and say, would you be willing to dialogue with me on this? I would like some insight from you, if possible, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you mentioned, you know, my mom said maybe it would be a good idea for me to contact you. Do you think I could send you my resume and maybe you can take a look at it and give me some feedback? Like there's a lot of dialogue that can happen on social media or different forms of the platforms, right? The technology is there for us to use. And right now, people are pivoting left, right, and center. People are leaving the workplace and starting small businesses, big businesses. Some people now are doing the hybrids where they're working 1 day in the office and 4 days at home. Like, you know, there's just a lot of them. There's some offices that are never going to go back to in office again, because they've realized as a result of the past 2.5 years that it is possible for me to still conduct business, still meet my bottom line, still be productive, and everybody's at home and everybody's happier. My staff is actually happier.
I agree. And I think there's a couple of things before you leave to start your business. While you're at your work, there's so much training that they do inside. So take those trainings, develop your business, figure out those things while you're still there. As I said, there's things like, learn for life. There's between the university and college courses, there's certificate programs that you can do. There's online through social medias. There's definitely different seminars that you can actually get about starting your own business, or what are some of the things that you might need to do. So one of the things I know for a lot of my peers, they're going into their 50s and they're trying to figure out, well, okay, my work is downsizing, what do I do? And is a business the best thing for me to start my own business? But even if it's not starting your own business, it's a matter of now taking some of the skill sets and taking account of what you've already learned. What are the trainings that are available currently, or what can you get externally in the community or wherever you can to actually build your resume, revamp your resume, be able to kind of say, okay, you know what? I may be transitioning. Is this something that I do want to go through a second career? Is this something that I might want to do something else within that for me to be able to do? Or do I want to start my own business? Because not everybody wants to start their own business, but sometimes you have a particular skill sets that you can now say, hey, I know that other people need this skill set, and I'm going to now be able to look at enhancing this and start my own business that way. So think about where you are currently. If you're thinking of transitioning, or your job is saying, well, we're thinking of downsizing, think about what it is that you want to do. What are the things that you can get already for free, because it's part of the training that you can get at work in order for you to be able to enhance whatever you're going to do as a second career or wherever you're going to go afterwards.
And look for networking opportunities that are currently out there, whether it's online or in person. Within the industry, like there's some very industry specific association of, or whatever the case may be, and they host variety of, networking capabilities for people to attend. So do that. If you're pivoting completely, like, you want to move from retail into tech, for example, well, seek out the tech companies that are of interest to you, see what they're doing. And the other thing is, a lot of the marketplace or the workplace marketplace is still very traditional. Okay? But there are a lot of companies out there now that are really, really diving into those transferable skills.
Yep.
Some of those soft skills, some of those, I don't care if you have a degree, can you do XYZ? Are you pumped about XYZ? Do you have knowledge outside of the corporate environment about our industry?
Yep.
Like, you look for those kinds of things. Like, that's what you need to do. Like, the beauty of the technology now is that everything is at our availability. So the companies themselves have things like they will have their own YouTube channel where you can really research people, places, and things within that company, because they put out things that are from their own people. They have, what used to be the intranet is now exposed on their LinkedIn channels, their Facebook channels, their YouTube channels. So you can do a lot of research on the companies that you want to work for, or to see what kind of advancements are they making? What is their take on hiring older people, midlife people, like what is their take on that? Right? You can see if that aligns with you. Like, a lot of people now are looking for companies that align with their everyday values, their core values. So a company might have core values, but you yourself should also have core values. And is that going to align? Right? So there's so many great things that you can do. And people are very much receptive. I find anyway, I think a lot people are becoming more and more receptive to having people who so-called cold call them. It's all in your approach, and it's all in the timing as well. You know what I mean? And to Rose Ann's point, I really like the fact that, like, just because you're thinking of pivoting, don't go so fast and just ditch that job. Because this landscape is very sometimes unstable. Like, you really don't know. So I think do a lot of your grouping and planning and strategizing while you still have employment, and seek it out because it's there if you want it, and then go for it.
Well, there are so many more areas we can cover, but I think at this point, let us see whether or not anybody in the audience wants to ask a question. I saw in the chat, someone wanted to know how you can make money by posting, I think, videos. Becoming an influencer, I think you get paid for.
Yeah, I mean, we probably don't
on
have
social media
enough time for that. And
Okay.
That wouldn't be my particular focus or specialty.
Okay.
But definitely, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can. But the one thing to remember is that what you see online is not what's happening behind the scenes or in real life. So if you're talking about influencer marketing and influencer stardom, know that everything that you see did not happen overnight, and it does take a lot of work. People don't think it's work, but it is work. And you have to have a consistency and a dedication, and you have to approach it as if it really is a full-time job. Because the ones that are really truly successful at it, they don't stop. So
Okay.
you've got to know where your mindset is for that. And if that's what you want and desire, then you've got to go all in. That's just how it seems to be working, and that's what the stats and the information is showing us.
Wilder Clark has a comment.
Oh, you have to unmute.
Yeah, I don't. I was responding to a comment that was made to a chat comment that I had made. It wasn't a major comment that I had. I certainly concur with just about everything that is being said at this point, definitely.
Well, nice meeting you, Walda. What else, right? You enjoying your Sunday? Yes.
Yes, indeed,
Okay,
and
good.
becoming and getting the knowledge from what is being said. It is so appreciated, very much so.
Oh,
I think as seniors, we are, well, I guess the point I was trying to make is as seniors, we are
yes.
so vulnerable because and trusting. So when someone calls and tells you something crazy, like, we have this special for you or whatever, it is so easy for some people to believe that. And you get drawn into situations and it is truly sad. So, I certainly appreciate all of what you're bringing forward.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you so much.
Roseanne, do you have any areas that you want to cover that we haven't yet covered?
I don't even know if we had the time to continue to cover that.
Listen, Jennifer's planning on going home tonight.
Well, you can still at least start it.
I think we've said everything. I think it's never too late to learn. As I said, there's so many places that you can find out, and start at home. Start at home in terms of where and who, and tapping into some of the other generations in the home to be able to do that, and to be able to have them to be gentle with you as you go through that. I think Jean Augustine has a question.
As a comment, yes. Go ahead, Jean.
Okay, mine is not really a question as much as an affirmation for the presentations that you've made. I keep saying yes, yes. I am an 85-year-old grappling with all of this. The issue around banking, I agree with. But something that Rose said earlier that I commented on somewhere, and that is, do what you can. And I do what I can to the extent of which I can. And then I look for younger people to do some of the things. I do all of the ordinary things that one can do. And then when you get to stuff like underlining and all of the more sophisticated things that you have to take a course in order to learn, I leave that to helpers.
Yeah.
And
you're functional.
That's right.
Yeah.
And delegating and outsourcing is an option for a lot of things, especially online. There's a lot of people who are, like myself, I offer virtual assistant services, things like that. There are a lot of apps, there are a lot of platforms where you can hire somebody for minimal amount to assist you maybe with a task or for a series of ongoing tasks. And it's not going to hit you too hard in the bank account. But there's so many things that you can do. And especially if you are running a business, outsourcing and delegating becomes even more prevalent because you really simply cannot do everything. And it does gets too much. And when you bring, for example, social media into the mix of everything else that's going on, it's a whole other world. And people need to understand that social media, as much as it entertains us, it's work for a large majority of the people that are on these platforms. Like, they take it very seriously, what they do, what they bring forward that we get to consume. There's people on there making products, services, whatever, being influencers, whatever it is, there's a lot of work going on all fronts, and we need to appreciate a little bit more, extend a little bit more gratitude for the technologies that we do have and we do use in a positive light, and be thankful for the fact that we do have these tools available to us, and there is no better time than now to get with it. Whatever with it is for you, you can do this. You can do this. Pacing yourself is key. Not taking on too much at one time. Like, with most things, small bites, one step, those kind of things need to be running through your mind. You don't have to do and accomplish everything all at once. Take your time. Like, let's say, for example, somebody's going for a degree. They may have started it in their 20s, continued it in their 40s, finish it in their 60s. Like the other day on CTV News, I saw this wonderful woman, I forget her name because it doesn't come to me right now, but she just got her master's degree at 85. You saw it, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on. I sat at home on the couch and I'm like, yeah, I'm the only one at home. And I'm like, yeah, you see what I'm saying? It's never too late. And then they trail off to say that her sister had received her degree
The year before.
year before at 79.
79.
Like, come on, guys. Come on, people. Come on.
Yeah.
So it's possible. And it was something that she had started, but life happens, but it was still something that, and then she realized, and she said this herself, what am I doing? My husband has passed away and I'm just sitting at home.
Yeah.
She went back straight into it. And now she's looking at what else she can do to get maybe her PhD and maybe do some
her master's.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
her undergrad.
So like,
Yeah.
my goodness, like it's really up to us. We get to determine this, right? So the tools are there. We don't have to do everything all at once. And as long as God gives us breath, then we have time.
But I'll tell you,
One second. I think Marjorie Taylor wanted to say something, and then we're going to get back to Jean.
Yeah.
Marjorie?
Yeah, just a comment here. It's really a comment. I find this conversation very fascinating, interesting, very educational as well. There are lots of tips here. And I do believe in continuous learning. I'm a senior, or let's say young at heart, senior. And I did write in the chat, I just started, there's this Ontario Society of Seniors, and I just started a Photoshop course. And, you know, yes, yeah, for beginners. So, you know, I would encourage folks, you know, whatever age you are, to embrace technology and don't be afraid to come over as being foolish. Ask your questions. I've reached a stage where, you know, it might sound foolish to me, but eventually, you know, it leads somewhere, and it's very encouraging. So I'm really taking this all in, and you know, and I'm encouraged to continue.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jean, I'm sorry.
Well, one last comment, brief comment. I had to get my head, as you said earlier, into the kind of positive, I can do this. And I had to get my head around the fact it won't ruin the computer, it won't break. And secondly, it won't get lost. Even if it got lost, there's somebody who can find it for me. So I think once I got over the fact, this is not fragile, it won't break, and nothing is really lost once it's entered there. Those were two lessons that I had to learn very early.
And another comment from the chat is that the library, that's what they're there for. They're eager and willing to teach. And so make use of what they can teach you. When they had courses on completing 3D
printing?
Printing, yes. And I mean, I signed up and I went. It was fascinating. I didn't do anything with it afterwards, but just learning something new and knowing that if I wanted to pursue it some more, that help was available.
And I think,
then, you know, go ahead.
I was going to say Paul's comment in the chat was the fact that any sort of learning or courses actually helps to delay and even the onset of dementia. And so anything to keep your brain active, and whether it's those little games that you're playing, or it's just anything that you're learning. So if you want to start your degree, if you want to do anything, please, absolutely. Yeah.
Rose, you had
like that. Well, I was just thinking that too, like with the library has a lot of things that, yes, you can do in person, but a lot of us, especially those of us who are a little bit older, maybe in our 60s and 70s, maybe we're retired, all of that, you know, remember that you've acquired a lot of skill and knowledge, and now is the ideal time to start kind of revolving that around and giving back, as they say, and you know, getting in touch with your local library and saying, you know what, I put together a half an hour training course on XYZ. Like, a lot of them are open to that. You just have to put in your submission, you know, or a local organization. You know, this is the time now to start sharing, not only with the younger generation, but with your generation, because there are people out there in your same age group that also want to learn from you, whatever it is that you know,
Yep.
right? Or that you've newly just discovered, right? So like, even to Jennifer's point, she went for 3D, but she didn't do anything with it. But now, if she has a grandchild who comes to her and say, you know what, I'm thinking, and then, Grandma, you did what? Like, now you're telling me that you already did a 3D course? Yeah, and it was this, and it was that, and like, you know, it's just constant exchange, right? Especially between the generations. But we can be of support to each other within our demographics, right? So I think, again, like, the opportunities are just bountiful, you know?
Wonderful. I think we've had a very rich discussion, and the encouragement for embracing technology is there. Embrace it at your own comfort level, your own pace. Use it for what you want. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but use it for something so that you are not totally left behind.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been very competent in our jobs using print and analog, and now we're all digital. So have that same confidence in yourself that there's something that you can do using technology that will keep you engaged and keep you progressing. I think that, let me just check the chats to see if there's anything else that anyone wants to see. So I think that it looks as though we've said all we can on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I thank Roseanne and Rose for a very engaging and uplifting dialogue. And I'd like to thank everyone who signed in to share with us and to listen. And so we're going to wrap up. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Excellent. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful Sunday, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, 100 ABC women. I love you guys.
Always.
I mean, women, not guys. Sorry.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never